problem with the play on the punter in the end zone. I thought, as I tried to be objective about it, that was the right call to make. They ran into him. They didn't rough him. He did a nice little spin job, a little bit of a flop by the Buckeye punter, and so I wasn't too worked up about that call. But like you said, there were several non-calls on what looked to me to be clear pass interference by the Bama DBs. You can't grab and hold and arm bar, the receiver down the field, and they were doing that. Even on the pass that people were criticizing on first down with a minute and a half to go.
Even that was sketchy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That should have been a pass interference call, and as much as you can critique the throw on first down, as Meyer said a couple of times after the game when he's getting grilled on it, look, they had 10 guys in the box. We had one-on-one coverage, and they didn't go with they didn't even go with their number one receiver. They kind of went with Spencer to try to get one-on-one on him and know that he has great hands and could come up with the ball, which he almost did. But, legitimate grounds for criticism there for not taking those seconds off the clock. Obviously, Alabama would never have gotten as close as they did to keeping a ball into the end zone on the last play, but if they had 40 fewer seconds to work with. But all's well that ends well, I guess.
Right, absolutely. I'm with you there. I was going to interrupt you there because I wanted to ask you if I was just being homerish. I can hear you on the punt because that can really be, what do you think? He did a good pirouette job there to, as you said, kind of sell the thing and good stuff. But the pass interferences, there was a couple of them that I said, man, am I just, okay, I know that I've got a dog in the fight, but am I nuts? This guy is, there. One time he's got his hand on him, pushes him, then grabs him, and all as the ball's coming in. And I'm like, now come on, man. Like, I don't even like pass interference. I think it's one of the most bogus calls most of the time, but we got to be getting some here. And there were a couple that Alabama wouldn't have came back because those were, I think the one was a third down where if the catch had been made, the drive continues, and then Alabama maybe doesn't even get the ball back. And they got away with a lot of that. I'll tell you what, I mean, I guess maybe not because they weren't getting the calls, but I told Jerry when we were watching it, my thought when they went for the long pass there on first down at the end was they knew there had been so much that they figured you can't not get a flag on all of them, so maybe they figured worst come to worst, the guy's been so physical that they may catch the flag or catch the good one-on-one matchup there and just end the game there with the long pass. But I thought that was my one justification was, well, maybe they figure, hell, this guy's been all over him with his hand, so if nothing else, we've got a shot at the flag here, let's take a shot. Like you said, they stacked the box in. But either way, it's easier to complain about not getting the calls when you win the game anyway, because then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's true. We did get the one blatant pass interference when the guy hit Nick Vanette from behind. A second before the ball got there. There was no way they could not call that one. But yeah, I thought several of them could have been called. And again, Meyer figures he completes that pass, game's over, and he doesn't have to worry about running out the clock and using up the timeouts. Because he's got enough field position and maybe even a touchdown out of it. So hard to second guess that. Even though everybody, including all the journalists, asked him after the game, we're doing just that, kind of trying to zero in on that play as being a coaching blunder, which is something journalists like to do after games.
It's funny. I was looking at some of the national narratives. There's some, most people will chalk it up as a great game that Ohio State won. I've seen some that chalk it up as a great game that Alabama lost. I guess it just depends on your way of looking at it. But one of the things when you talk about a great game is answering the other team. And that was one of the other elements that this game had to make it an instant classic. Whether, how many times in that game you can point to key moments where the game can change right here. Either a team got the ball with a chance to take the lead or change the course of the game, and here comes an interception or here comes a turnover, here comes a big defensive play. As we saw, the Buckeyes did that. That one interception, not the final one, but the second to last interception there. That, to me, may have been the one that saved the game because here, boom, things are going bad. Here's a chance for Alabama to come down. First pass, Guy steps up, gets the pick there near the goal line, and enables them to run some more time off the clock there, man. But each team did a good job of coming up when somebody needed to make a play.
Yeah, no doubt. Von Bell, that was just
Von
after
Bell.
Just after the terrible punt.
Yep.
When they got the ball around the 25-yard line. And I think it was either the second play, maybe even the first play.
I think it was the first.
Where he rolls out and Von Bell comes up with the big pick. And we still got the ball on our own 9-yard line. But at that point, the Buckeyes are only up 6 points. And you could very easily see, 7 minutes left in the game there. And, Bell comes up with a big pick and probably an ill-advised throw, although that replay showed how fast Von Bell closed on that play. The guy was wide open, and you can easily see why the ball was thrown. But Von Bell is a nice player. I've had a couple of guys that I respect say the Buckeyes would be great if both of their safeties were Von Bell. Sort of a backhanded slap at the other guy, but he's a heck of a talent, and another example of a guy that Urban Meyer pulled away from Alabama. Interesting story about that recruitment. I was just reading yesterday an account from a story in Grantland where Meyer was down with the rest of his staff, and he's recruiting Von Bell. And Von Bell is a Georgia player, and he's down to his final 2 choices, Alabama and Ohio State. And this is right at the end. Von Bell was a signing day commitment for that, even the country in terms of ranking. Behind Sua Cravens, a great kid out of USC. But Meyer's sitting there talking to him after his state championship football game, and Meyer tells him, he said, Alabama and Ohio State, they're both great programs. You can't go wrong with either one. He said, but the difference is that Alabama wants you and Ohio State needs you. You're just going to be another great All-American player at Alabama. You might play in a couple of years, maybe. But, up here at Ohio State, we need you. And that went a long way towards swaying Bell. He knew he was going to get early playing time, and, of course, he did. He didn't get enough last year as a freshman, but he's really solidified things back there for him this year.
For sure. You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rock, Dan Wismar, talking a little bit about the Buckeyes and Alabama, a fantastic Sugar Bowl, and the Buckeyes advance. They will be in the very first official now college football playoff national championship. It's coming up a week from this coming Monday. And, we've got all next week. You and I will be able to start looking into Oregon, but just flashing back to them a little bit. You and I talked a little bit about that game. Huge win for them. I believe that is the worst bowl game loss for a defending national champion the following year in history. I'm not 100%. I think that's what I saw though. The worst follow-up bowl game loss ever, and they dropped a half 100 like it was nothing on those guys. And I'm with you. I think back to what you said at the beginning of this, even afterwards, man, when you were watching that game, going, boy, I don't know if it's Alabama or Ohio State, but man, they're good luck here going into the danger zone with these guys offensively. And it's going to be a lot of fun for the next week and a half to speculate ahead to that. But, I think that adds another dynamic into heading into the game, because instead of two teams that came off of, similar games, you've got one who had a hard-fought, gritty, come from behind battle against the incumbent number one here, and then you've got the other one who just blew the team out, man. So you've got all kinds of different dynamics coming into play for the national championship game.
Right, and maybe the biggest one, Jerry, is that in the case of Alabama and Ohio State and Meyer and Saban, these are two guys that, don't make too many bones about, not really caring for each other, or at least it's an antagonistic rivalry. Where with Oregon, and Meyer said it after the game, he's buddies with these guys. Helfrich is a friend of his. Chip Kelly is a guy that Meyer has befriended and has sought out for consultation. He went up and spent some time with the Eagles this year to exchange ideas and learn from Chip Kelly. And he was doing that when Kelly was still back at Oregon. So he knows Helfrich. They're acquainted and friendly with each other. And Meyer, they do a lot of the same things. They both run read option. They both run, hot, fast-paced, no-huddle kind of offenses. No coincidence that their offenses are similar, because they've been working with each other and consulting with each other for years, going back to the Chip Kelly years. So that dynamic alone, the fact that these guys are friendly friends, true friends, as opposed to just rival coaching colleagues, makes it even more interesting because they know each other so well and they know each other's systems so well and have a genuine respect for each other. So that'll make it interesting. Maybe not as interesting as Ohio State versus the Evil Empire, which ended yesterday. But still, it's like you say, a different angle on the game that's going to be fodder for a lot of articles that we'll be reading over the next 10 days.
And we'll be talking about it, too. I mean, I'm curious what kind of game it is, too. You got two offenses that will have no problem getting into anything you can do, I can do better. But both teams can get, as we know about the Buckeyes, but I saw a little bit with Oregon, a lot. They can get physical. They can do some things, too, man. So it'll be interesting. Who knows? A game like that with two high-powered offenses where you think this could be one of those kind of games, a lot of times they turn out sometimes the opposite, and they end up being a much more physical because that's what everybody's prepared for. So then you got to come and attack the other way. It's going to be a lot of fun looking into that. Hey, maybe the Sugar Bowl just doesn't work out too well for Alabama. Nick Saban now 0-3 in the Sugar Bowl, and in all of those he was favored by 8 points or more in those 3 Sugar Bowl losses. But I'm just going to chalk it up to the Buckeyes.
I was just going to say another couple of angles on this Oregon game. First of all, is the angle that the Buckeyes are now facing their third consecutive Heisman Trophy candidate.
Yeah.
They stopped Melvin Gordon cold, and they really limited the damage that Amari Cooper could do to him last night, and now they got the Heisman winner coming up. So we'll see how they can do with Marcus Mariota. But the other angle, of course, being that Oregon has never won a national championship, and Oregon is 0-8 lifetime against Ohio State.
Yes.
The last meeting, of course, being that Rose Bowl game in January 2010, 5 years ago, when Terrell Pryor upset the highly touted Ducks and favored Ducks and won Jim Tressel his first Rose Bowl.
Yeah, going to be a lot of fun. Next week, you and I will start getting into that, of course. Dan Wismar, J-Rock here, talking a little bit about the Buckeyes. Before I let you go, you and I talked a bit earlier in the week before we got into the postseason breakdown for the Browns. Their season, of course, as we know, ended. But what were your thoughts on I didn't get a chance to talk to you here since we've heard from Ray Farmer, from Mike Pettin as the Browns head off into the offseason. And we don't need to go crazy on this because we've got plenty of months to do it. But I know you are a lot like me in the way you see things, and I totally get that you're allowed to do whatever you want to do when the season's over, but you gotta, if you're like me, you gotta admit that you at least chuckled, if not worse, when you saw literally the day after the Browns season ended, Johnny Manziel's off-season beginning in a spectacular fashion for himself, which, hey, again, you're allowed to do whatever you want to do, but it's the whole perception and circumstances and all those things we talk about. I just laughed and said, look, man, if you guys, you're fooling yourself if you think that anything is changing anytime soon.
Yeah, Johnny has promised us, 3-4 times now that he was going to get serious, like starting tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
This time it's for real. I'm going to, because I know I've got to grow up and I've had some fun and I've sowed my wild oats but now that's over. Because I know I've got to be serious. So we've heard it, and it's the little boy crying wolf. We'll believe it when we see it, and we aren't seeing it just yet. So yeah, you're right. I don't think there's any reason for a Browns fan to think that there's all of a sudden been a personality transplant or a maturity burst here that we're seeing from Johnny. I think we can rest assured that whoever he's playing for next year will be dealing with the same difficulties that they have this year.
Absolutely. I got a kick out of that. Not again, you're allowed to do whatever, and I'm not trying to just bash the kid for nothing. He gave that final, I'm sorry, I didn't do it right, I'm going to work harder. And I laugh at the fact that it's not even 24 hours, and here's the Instagram from the club saying, happy birthday, LeBron. And I'm just saying, I know you've got LeBron's phone number, and I know that you could have just texted that to LeBron James, video message and everything, and he would have gotten it, and it would have been just fine, and nobody would have been talking about it. It's what you and I talk about.